Women are always coming to me asking for the guy who's highly evolved, communicative, all of that. Who leads this part of your relationship?
Me.
Of course you do.
We have to find a way to get singles to understand, again, no shame. They're not bad. That's okay. Getting them to have a reality check, look in the mirror, aha moment, without shame, with love, to see who they are, who they've become, how they've shown up in their relationships in the past, where are the patterns, all of the patterns within their own behavior, as well as the patterns of the people that they've been attracted to and in love with. People started to call me a matchmaker. I'm like, no, I'm not a matchmaker. I just like to help people find love within themselves. And hey, if I help them with each other, amen, hallelujah. A method, a genuine method to the madness of why people remain so disconnected from love. I'd had a second baby with him, and in my heart, I just knew he wasn't the one. Getting ready to leave, and all of a sudden I see this man, my husband, floating across the room.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Cupid's Coach podcast. I'm your host, Julie Furman, inviting you, as always, to transform me to we through your very own process of doing dating better. And you're going to have a better chance at this now because my guest is my good friend and colleague, Kailen Rosenberg. She's in Minnesota, and we have known each other for how long, Kailen?
Oh, over 30 years. It's been a while.
Seriously. Oh my gosh. Since even before I started my company, that is amazing. So I knew you from the days when I was working with Great Expectations before I started my own company. You don't look old enough to have all this history, darling.
Well, thank you. Well, yeah, back at you, girl.
It's just amazing. And I never get a chance to talk with you guys at the conferences because there are so many of us. So it's one of the sneaky reasons why I started my podcast all those years ago, because I'd have a chance to have Kailen all to myself for a whole 45 minutes and pick your brain about everything that's going on in your world.
Awesome. Yeah, let's go. It sounds nice.
So a couple questions right off the bat. I want to know what inspired you to get into the world of matchmaking and dating coaching and all this stuff that you do?
Oh, Lord. I have to be honest, I wasn't inspired to get into matchmaking. It was really sort of the last thing on my mind. My heart and my passion really has always been and started as helping people, really matching people with themselves, introducing people to their true self, teaching them how to really love themselves, and not only how to do that, but what that really means, what it looks like, and how it shows up in their life. And so when I was doing that, it was really sort of spiritual life coaching and intuitive coaching way before its time. I started my business in my early 20s. And my clients that were coming to me were all coming through word of mouth. And, some were married, some were single. So there was no focus on connecting singles. But of course, once I was really diving into, or had really dove into each client's life and got them to a space of seeing themselves and loving and honoring themselves and having a voice and being able to listen to their true inner voice, it was at this point that they were either starting to attract the right partner, right? And others like flies, or I would get this kind of fun gut feeling about two of my clients that just happened to be single. And I'd say, oh my gosh, because I knew him on such a deep level. I said, you have to meet my other client. You two would be fabulous together. And I'd introduce them. And the next thing I knew, they'd come running to me and they'd say, oh my gosh, you've introduced me to my soulmate. I'm madly in love. We're together. We're getting married. And I was going through a divorce. And so I was watching all of this sort of go down, and it just kind of catapulted. It was almost like the snowball that rolls down the hill or the mountain, and it gets bigger and bigger. And really, people started to call me a matchmaker. I'm like, no, I'm not a matchmaker. I just like to help people find love within themselves. And hey, if I help them with each other, amen, hallelujah. But I guess I soon found that there was a true definite, as I know you get and you understand and use, but a method, a genuine method to the madness of why people remain so disconnected from love. And it's that they have forgotten to or never found a way to really know and love themselves, and therefore honor themselves and know their true value and therefore honor that value. And so I thought, well, you know what? I can move into this matchmaking thing if the focus is always on the being and not finding the other. And hence here we are 28 years later. And as a matchmaker, that's part, I love architect, and so that fills my heart. That fills my heart.
It doesn't surprise me to hear that, because that's always been my understanding of your take, where you come from. It's about the spiritual part. It's about loving ourselves. Why is it so hard for us to love ourselves? Come on, why?
Yeah. Oh, and it looks like we may have froze here. Oh, and I apologize. It looks like we froze for a moment. So I heard you say, why is it so hard?
Why is it
Right?
so hard for
Yeah.
human beings to honor and love and respect ourselves? It's been said that the number one quality that men look for in a woman and find attractive, it's not our external beauty, it's its personal confidence. Why is it so hard for us to achieve?
Most of us were never taught our true value. We were not really truly loved in the way that our parents, our families felt love for us, wanted to be able to love us, to show us love. They were obviously tripping over the love that they didn't receive. There's there's been so much brokenness, right, in the energy of love generationally going back thousands of years that just continues on, and we've just unfortunately picked up and learned really dysfunctional ways of recognizing, accepting, or seeing love, not only toward one another but then therefore with ourselves. And so we end up becoming this, we've heard the term, the shadow or the representative or the, all these different terms for it, but it's just really it's real, it's authentic and real, that most of us have never really learned or experienced love in a genuine way. And so we're doing it quite haphazardly with great intention and great heart and desire, but really screwing it up. And so we end up perpetuating this pain point, and we fall in love and we get married and we have babies and we have unhappy marriages and then we have unhappy kiddos and then we get divorced and then we try to do it again and then we're single. And it's really, so again, focusing as you do, as I do, on when people come to us, our clients come to us, it's like, hey, you're fabulous, you're wonderful, you look amazing, you've got it all right down on paper, it's all wow, but get in line with all the rest of the wow. Who are you really? Do we know? Right? Because again, if you don't know, to answer your question, if you don't really know who you are, most people think they do, but they really don't, then we're stuck and then it's painful. So
What are the parts of us when you say that we really don't know who we are?
yeah.
What are you referring to? What parts of me might I not know about already?
So if you had a parent, and again, this is most. So if you had a parent that maybe grew up with an alcoholic, or addicted family member who was raised with a lot of shame, who struggled on some level with their own identity or self-love or self-awareness, parents will, as part of their desire and attempt to love us, will project that into us and therefore through us and then onto us. And then we see that as love. We take that on as love. And we then see ourselves through the lens of our parents. We can't help it since we're little tykes. And so we're falsely loving ourselves, and we're falsely wanting, though, to please that parent that wants to love us in a way that they weren't loved, but they were trying to be loved. And so then the next thing you know, you are becoming that being that was projected onto you, instead of having that really cool, deep, raw, authentic ability to just fall, trip, make mistakes, have it be okay, not be super smart all the time, not have to be incredibly cerebral, not have to be really deep, not have to be really spiritual. Things that can be wonderful and beautiful for someone else may not be wonderful and beautiful for you. And that has to be so incredibly okay. And so that's really it. It's that most people just never have had that opportunity to really connect with, who am I really? How do I really feel? But we're always getting triggered by little elements and teachers and voices everywhere in life, whether it's something we see on Instagram, or it's something we're reading, or it's something we see on TV that makes us laugh or makes us cry or makes us angry. And what those are, they're little teachers and messengers that are showing, they're triggering a truth in us that's saying, just wake up, wake up, wake up, right? Because so that's the one thing that's so precious and magical about life, is that it's just sitting there waiting for you to just wake up now, be present now, be okay now, love who you are now. And then all of a sudden, all the beauty starts to happen.
So you have found a way to take people through, guide people through the process of falling in love with themselves.
Yeah, I sure try.
And they need to do that before they can expect to attract the right partner.
You have to, because most often people are falling in love with the wrong partner. And then we figure that out when we're married. We're
That's
like, oh,
right.
shoot, what do I do? Darn it. So, but yes, that is
I have
that.
I
100%
have
of
a
my phone.
personal question I'm going to ask
Yes.
you. All right, Kailen Rosenberg, there is a man named Lance in your life, isn't there?
I just literally got chills. Yes.
How did you meet Lance and how long was it after your divorce?
Oh, you mean after my first story? I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
um,
tell us your history. You've been married once? Have you been...
yes. Married once. Yes. Married once, divorced, or yeah, married once, engaged, and then yes, and then met Lance. So we met at First Avenue. So, if you are a Prince fan and Purple Rain, if you saw the movie Purple Rain, that club. So we
Oh,
met it, yeah, and in 1998. And we knew the minute we met. We've been together since. We knew the minute we met we were going to be together. We just knew. Yes, yes. And what was your second question? How long
how
was it
did the...
after? Oh,
So you met at this club, but how did it actually happen? Like, eye contact, who said what first, who asked, how did that happen?
yeah, it's pretty funny. We still actually tell this story all the time, and we still talk to each other about it. Um, it was I had been in an 8-year relationship with a man that I was engaged to. I'd had a second baby with him. And in my heart, I just knew he wasn't the one. People were getting married left and right through me, and everything my clients were describing and explaining, I didn't have. I'm like, I want that. I want what they have. And so we ended amicably. And in fact, I introduced him to his now wife. So that's a whole other story. But so anyway, it would have been about 3 months and I hadn't dated anyone. And one morning I just woke up and I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to start dating. We were out of our relationship. I'd ended the engagement and I prayed. I literally got on my knees and I just said, Lord, I am so ready. I want this. I really want this. And so Lord, show me. And later that night, my little sister invited me out to go dancing with her. It was techno night. And we went to First Avenue and I was there and I was kind of uptight. I was a kind of bitchy mood. I don't know why. I was kind of not digging that whole scene and she's having a blast in the dance floor and I was getting ready to leave. And all of a sudden I see this man, my husband, floating across the room. And I've never even been this person that is the love at first sight person. But I saw him and when I looked at him, like, oh, wow, something's different about him. And then right after I saw that, way across the room or across the dance club, I heard a voice say, you're going to marry that man someday. And, I'm an intuitive and I have this voice and different things that channel through me and speak through me. And they do it for everyone else, but they had never done it for me. And I thought, wait, what? I don't even know. I haven't even met that guy. And the next thing I knew, my little sister's friend flew off the dance floor because she too saw him, ran up to him, hugged him. Turned out they were good friends and she worked for him. And the next thing I knew, we were introduced and we've been together ever since. It was just one of those things. It was
He
just this soul.
was he a masculine guy so that he said, Kailen, you're special. I want to go out with you. I need your phone number. What are you doing on Friday night? Did he take initiative in that way?
Julie, that's so funny. I guess, yes. I know I've never even thought of it that way. What's funny is that we were each other's polar opposite type. He was not my type and I was not his type. It really was a soul thing. So, just like the visual, even though he's a very handsome man, that wasn't my dude. And again, I was very uptight. I was in my business suit. I had my glasses on. I was not the hot chick all prepped up to go out dancing at techno night. So, but yes, he did. It was cute. I probably about 15 minutes into chatting, he grabbed my hand, which typically I'd be like, I don't know you. I'm not grabbing your hand. He grabbed my hand. He's like, here, we just need to go talk somewhere quiet. And we had the most amazing conversation. So yes, he did kind of lead. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you're the perfect person to ask this. So you've been married to Lance how long?
23 years.
23 years. And you had a child together because you have 3 boys.
Yes, Jack. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. In fact,
Okay.
they're in Chicago right now together.
So I've always had this strange relationship with the term in love. Like, what is it to be in love? And
Yeah.
I'm curious, I have my idea about what it is to be in love. I want to ask Kailen Rosenberg, what is it to be in love? And how is
Mm.
it different today than it was when you first met Lance?
Man, it's not any different, honest to God. But there's a lot of of story to that, that we don't have time for right now. What does it mean I'm still in love? So what does it mean? And it's cute because we just talked about this again recently. I get we've had date night every Friday and Saturday night our entire relationship, and I still get nervous. I still get butterflies. I still get excited. I feel like I'm still going out on my first date. I have to look as cute as I can. My hair and makeup is all done, and my clothes I have it. And not for anything super. Like I just am excited. I'm excited to go be with my man. And I still, when we make love, I don't mean to. I don't know. It's still like I still love looking in it. I just, it's been a long time, and I still love looking into his eyes, and I still love just it really is a soul thing. It's really a soul thing. I don't get sick of him. Have I been mad and angry and hated his guts? At times, of course. But those are those fleeting ego moments and moments for teaching and healing and growth. But overall, it's just like, no, he's yummy and that's my guy. And I love that man. And I'm
Beautiful.
excited to grow old with him. And yeah.
Now, women are always coming to me asking for the guy who's highly evolved, communicative, all of that. Who leads this part of your relationship?
Me.
Of course you do. You're way, way high up on that scale. So there are times when you have to be kind because you realize that he doesn't have the same skill set that you do.
I think that he is an alpha male. He's a strong man, but you're right. Like both of you and I, we're both very strong women, right? We're strong, we're intense, we're intuitive. This is what we do for a living, right? We see into people and into hearts. I'm pretty heavy and pretty deep. And so what I love and I have great appreciation for is that he's not intimidated by having me lead a lot of our relationship. And also at the same time, he's strong enough to take the lead. And I then love to be able, as a strong woman too, I love to be able to melt into that and not have to be strong all of the time. So it
Mhm.
is a nice dance that way. And but my Lord, my gosh, we've been together since our 20s, right? So we've learned a lot. I'm 3 years from 60. So we've grown up a lot. Now, if you and I had had this conversation 20 years ago, it probably would have sounded a bit different. So I think that we definitely, as we've gotten older, we've learned to love each other deeper, healthier, more grown up, right? Mature. And we've been through a lot. We've been through loss. We've been through life. We've a lot in so many ways. And we've realized the intense value of the whole thing of being each other's best friend. You can't emphasize that one enough. Being
Yeah.
buddies, being pals, and being able to be weak and vulnerable and scared and messy and still hold space for each other. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not perfect for everyone.
It's beautiful. What about professional lives? You're a professional. I'm assuming he's a professional too, and you've got a big job. So how does that fit in?
Yeah. My mother-in-law had her own business and it was a successful business and under her name. And so he grew up with that and seeing his father really support that. And I do know that, it isn't easy to send your wife off with really wealthy single men and as having dinner and being in their home and so I'm grateful that he knows my heart, he knows my values, and that he was strong enough and confident enough to kind of say, hey, go do your thing, help people find love. But it really has worked well. He's been incredibly supportive and yeah, it's been neat.
Beautiful.
Very different lives, but
It sounds like you're not in competition with each other and you both have had success professionally and you really do support each other. It's
yeah.
beautiful. I noticed when I was studying up on you that sometimes when you're working with a challenging client, you'll use something that you call, right?
Mhm.
Tough love. When we're dealing with our matchmaking clients, our coaching clients, we're not really serving them by just tiptoeing around the difficult issues. What
No.
does tough love look like in your world, Kailen?
I hate to say, oh gosh, our clients are coming to us for a reason, and it's far deeper and more vast than I think most of them have any idea, right? And they need someone like us to care enough, genuinely, honestly, almost like adopting them into our lives and like a family member. We have to almost really fall in love with our clients and deeply care for them because we need to be that. We need to be able to see into them, see the truth into them, care about them, and love them enough to um, be okay with offending them, potentially making them really uncomfortable. Because at the end of the day, we really care about them and we really care about their success And the success means really having what they want and what they came to us for in the beginning, but yet it may end up looking quite different than what they thought it would be, but better than they hoped it would be, right? So I know you work with pretty high profile people as well, but I mean, I work with celebrities. I'm working with multi-billionaires. I was just in DC working with a big top politician last weekend. And these are big egos surrounded by people that all say yes and want to be in their circles. And even though they really don't love that, they're comfortable with it. And so then I come along and I'm like, oh yeah, your crap does smell. And yeah, your crap is not so together. And no, that's not becoming. And no, stop. That's really no, time to grow up. And so I'm people either kind of love me or hate me, I have to be honest. But I care about them enough to want to push them through, right? So tough love is just being ridiculously straight with them because I'm not here to waste their time. I do not want to be the one that put the next relationship in their life that's going to fail. That's just not, I'm not okay with that. I can't live with that. So yeah, it's hardcore, heavy, messy work. It's not as romantic and fluffy as most people think when they say matchmaker. It's just not.
Well, I've
But you
never really
know,
focused on the celebrity matchmaker element, but you're comfortable there. I tend to run from celebrities because I'm worried about the big egos and tell me, what is it like trying to match somebody that everyone knows?
well, here's the thing. Well, in what way? What do you mean?
Well, like, okay, so there was one time when I did it, and this woman was very, very, very well known. And she was telling me that this was one of the problems in her dating life. And I didn't think that that was really the problem, but it was funny because I tried a bunch of different ways to introduce her. And if I let the guy know who she
Yeah,
was,
right.
typically the guy would be like, no, I'm out. Can't do that. No. And so I started experimenting. This one date that I put her on, it was great. I told him, I have a date for you on Saturday night. He was not my current matchmaking client. He'd been a client earlier. We knew each other well. So I'm not going to tell you who she is.
Yeah.
You're going to probably recognize her when you see her. You're going to have a lovely time. He likes a woman who's strong, charismatic, funny, and she's all of these things. I said, you're
Yeah.
going to have a great time, but I'm not going to tell you who she is.
I love that. Yeah.
He was so mad at me because he didn't know who she was.
Love, that's perfect. See where the ego comes in and screws it all up?
She was like ready to storm out of the restaurant. She was so mad that he didn't know who
Oh,
she was. So, but the
that's
egos
too
are
bad.
tough. So,
Yeah.
give me an example of somebody, you don't have to say who it was, you
Yeah.
won't, but of a celebrity that was challenging to match and you matched them.
Oh gosh, let me think. Hold on. Well, I mean, I have to honestly say, is this correct? I don't have one. This is either going to hurt me or I don't care. I just love being real. I don't have one marriage. I've saved marriages, celebrity marriages, because I also work on marriages and within family dynamics.
Uh,
Um, so I have not put one, my publicist is going to be like, don't say this. I've not put one celebrity marriage together. I have not. I put lots of relationships together and people that are still together, but they've not gotten married. So,
Well, I mean, people at that level very often don't need to get married. They don't want to get married. There are too many assets involved. And so a relationship is fine.
true. Very, very, very true. But I guess I would just say that ask me the question again. That's so funny because that threw me up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just realized not one of my celebrities have ever been married through me, but I've
So let's
saved.
look at somebody, even if they didn't get
Yeah,
married, but
yeah,
somebody who you were a little nervous about taking them on because it's a high profile person,
yeah, yeah.
but it worked out and they found a relationship. And but how did they get there? You must have done some transformative
Oh,
work
okay.
first.
Yeah, I had one immediately come to mind. Well, I will. Okay. Celebrities are tough. And they know, I'll tell them they're
I'm
tough.
afraid of them, but you're not.
I'm not at all. No, no, no. And I'm like family with many of them now. No. They're in an ultra universe. We're all the civilians. That's a term that's used, right? We're civilians. So they live in a bubble and it's not their fault. And the majority of their identity is in that bubble and their value is in that bubble and their value is in remaining in celebrity. And so the ego takes hold on a whole different level than it does for us civilians. And yet they still starve for love. And they really, and depending on whether they came from a background of whether family parents were celebrity or not, or they came from, a little small town somewhere in Iowa and they ended up doing really well in acting. So where I'm going with this is that it's incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult to get them to shift, change, grow, which is now I'm kind of experiencing this with you at the same time. It's easier for me and for them to bring me into their life when they're really in pain and they're admitting they're in pain and they're admitting they need help outside of, hey, find someone for me, because they're thinking, hey, I'm so-and-so, I look like this, I have this, I know I have a line of people that give anything to be with me, which is true, right? And so shouldn't be a difficult job, Kailen, go find that person. But it's like, well, obviously, what happens after? How beautiful and real and genuine and connected is the love, and what you want that to look like. That's a lot more difficult than someone saying SOS, my relationship is in trouble, or I'm feeling depressed, or I'm really scared, or I'm having anxiety, or I'm not feeling like I want to live, or where it's a real, it hits the ego in a place that they don't have as much control and power, and they are at like mercy. And then I come in and I can really bring some really good healing and work. So praise God to that. That I'm so grateful for. But they're tough. They're easy to match and tough to match on a higher level. I'm just saying it. Just saying
Yeah,
it.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's something else I want to ask you
Yeah.
after this quick little break.
Sounds good.
Kailen, another question for you. When I was reading up on you, you talk a little bit about a false ego. A false ego. What's the difference between, tell us what you mean by false ego.
Yeah. Well, again, the ego itself isn't bad. We need our ego. To me, spiritually, is just sort of that it's that it's supposed to be healthy boundaries, sort of the density in that, if we are in our bodies having our souls in our body having a spiritual experience on this planet, kind of like we need something to protect us. But if it isn't a healthy ego, it becomes a false ego and therefore a false identity that then ends up getting us into trouble, because it ends up putting us in a position where we are lying to ourselves without knowing it, and then therefore lying to others and lying in life. And way too many people are doing that. And again, unknowingly. So sort of runs our life for us until, even as I was saying with my celebrity clients, until something big enough or bigger than that ego penetrates and just puts them at, I give, like mercy. That none of this is working, not the money, not the yachts, not the fame, not the this, the that. I'm really feeling vulnerable and I'm scared. And then that's when the false ego melts away, either completely or for a moment, and enough of a moment to then go in and penetrate and say, okay, wow, how are you right now, really? How are you really feeling? I know you called me and said you're feeling this, this, and this, but is that really real for you? And if it is real for you, where is that coming from? And how does that feel for you to feel and to be in that space right now? And it's that raw nugget of a moment that you can really make some major shifts and changes, but it's not always easy to get there.
And
And
if
you
we
don't want to wish bad things on people, but sadly, it's kind of the things that the tough things that really they need to have happen to crack that open.
Exactly. So the message here is that we shouldn't be afraid of taking a real honest look at who we are, other
No.
people are, because in that sorrow, in that place of angst is where we can break open.
Amen. Well, and there's nothing to be afraid of because we're all really lovely, beautiful, beautiful people. We are. And if they just realize that the truth of who we are is the most wonderful, it was who we were born to be. And as these pure little beings before we were sort of infiltrated into the surrounding family and the dynamics there, and then into the world, it's okay to go back and figure out who you are. And it's okay to be different. We don't need to be like each other. We just need to be who we are. And then it's the easiest to find our person. And then for you and I, then it's the easiest for us to help find their match and their best match. And that, as you know, is so rewarding and exciting and fulfilling.
It's the reason why I'm still inspired after 34 years to do this work, because I'm
Yeah.
always surprised, and I'm sure you have been too, when the couples that stick are sometimes the surprising ones. I thought the other one was going to stick, but no, it's this one. You do some work around the area of addiction too, don't you? It's something that comes up. I'm thinking about it this week because there's an introduction that I'm hesitating in making because one person has a habit of a drink or two every day, and the other person really has chosen not to, and doesn't really feel very comfortable with somebody who has a dependency. So my question in my mind is it a dependency? Is it a pattern? Is it a habit? Is it addiction? What do you have to say about that? If one person is in the practice of having a drink or two, or maybe they smoke pot and the other person doesn't, what's your experience about relationships? Do they work or not?
I think it's really difficult. I think that depending, if their souls are really meant to connect and they were meant to meet so that they could each help each other become sober in a higher way, in a spiritual way, in a different way, to find out why was there that dependency on the addict side, as well as the other side who could be an addict and that they're not there yet, right? Just, oh, it's just one or two, or I just, it's not a big deal. So again, for self-exploration and the opportunity to be the mirror to one another, it can be beautiful, but it's a fine line. Yeah, you have to trust yourself. You've been doing this for so long. And so something is, as deep on your heart that these two need to meet, trust that, and then let it go and let them as adults
I'm
figure it out.
I'm inclined not to make the introduction. I'm
Okay. I mean,
inclined not to, because I
yep,
think that
and I trust that.
the chemistry, that they're going to be like all over each other. And when it comes right down to it, lifestyles are not in sync. What about you
Oh,
and Lance?
that's not.
Do you guys have a glass of wine? Are you totally sober? How does your relationship work?
No, well, okay, so Lance comes from a family of alcoholics.
Mm.
And really, actually, I do too, differently. I have well, let's see. Yeah, I didn't grow up, my grandfather apparently was. I didn't see it. So he stopped drinking by the time I was old enough to recognize. And so really, in a sense, I grew up in a sober home, but had alcoholism in the background. Lance, different deal. So to be honest, it was an issue for a while. It was a concern for me for a while. And we just got to the point of where we just sort of realized, like, hey, this actually isn't working for us. It's not helping, it's not supporting, it's not adding. And we just kind of slowly pulled it back. So he and I will have, yeah, on Friday nights we have a martini together. But then that's it. So, and we'll have like champagne or a glass of wine if we go to a wonderful dinner or we have a wedding or something like that. But we know we need to be aware of it and cautious of it, and it doesn't metabolize in the body the same anymore. It's just not that exciting, I don't think.
I love that you both made this decision together. It wasn't like one was pushing the other. You both realized, you know what, this isn't serving us. And somehow you were able to trim it back so that every now and then or on Friday nights, it's fine. But it hasn't become habitual. It hasn't become an addiction for either one of you. And that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful. Yes.
There's something else that you teach. What is dialectical behavioral therapy?
Yeah. Well, really, it's a talk therapy, right? So it's, but really with compassion, with empathy, and with emotion. The focus is there. It's in, so the dialect of, because there's cognitive, right? So there's cognitive therapy, which again is a form of talk therapy. But this is really honing in more. It's actually quite wonderful for people that have had a lot of severe trauma, and more people have had trauma than not, and that more than they're even aware of. And it shows up in our relationships. That's just where it shows up. So it's being able to really connect with someone with a deep compassion, but you have to be careful because you need to have really strict boundaries, right? So you're not enabling, you're not confusing the person with regard to the emotion, but it's really diving into that space with deep compassion, awareness, empathy, and getting people, really working with people to get them comfortable in their body. It's a different type, it includes a different type of grounding. There are lots of different types of grounding techniques in psychology and in therapy, but it's really the mind, getting them to connect with the mind-body connection, along with your voice, along with the bringing people through the experience of the pain, the triggers, the trauma in a really, really safe and gentle space to be able to process it, as opposed to just going in and talking and going, okay, here's my problem, blah, 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 blah. And they hear themselves over and over, and it just repeats and continues, and then they're done and they leave. It just doesn't serve very well. So that's, yeah, I think that would be my best sort of description
I
of what
like
it
it.
is.
You know, one of the frustrations in the work that I do, and you might feel it too, is that the people who really need coaching and this kind of guidance are usually the people who are not open to it, and we
I
can't force
know.
openness, right?
No, no. You know, I think that's the toughest part about being a matchmaker. And that's why I also really, really started to dive into the coaching and the healing and working on the marriages is that we have to find a way to get singles to understand, again, no shame. They're not bad. That's okay. But getting them to have a reality check, look in the mirror, aha moment without shame, with love to see who they are, who they've become, how they've shown up in their relationships in the past, where are the patterns, all of the patterns within their own behavior, as well as the patterns of the people that they've been attracted to and in love with, and really getting to that space before deciding whether or not they're ready to be matched and to find love. Because most often people think, well, I'm single, I'm available, I'm lonely, I have all these great things and attributes in my life, I'm ready, give them to me now. And you and I can do that. We can do that very well, but that doesn't mean that it's going to end up really happy and healthy in the end. And
So how long will you work with somebody on the inside stuff before you provide the first introduction?
as long as they will let me. I mean, I mean, yeah, depending on how much is needed. And oftentimes too, a lot shows up later. A lot shows up when they're dating or they have their first aha or their first fight, right? Their first disconnect. So, I work with my clients all the way through, way beyond the match.
It's very unusual
Have
the way
to.
that you operate. It's very special.
Oh, you have to. I mean, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. What would you say? The last thing I want to ask you is, in what ways would you say people are unknowingly sabotaging their chance at love?
Oh gosh. Here's a fabulous example. A woman, I just started a singles ministry. I'm very excited about it. And I was speaking at an event and a woman came up to me after and she just lost her husband, love of her life. And he was 6'7", a big guy, real macho. And she said, I have this guy, he's a sweetheart, he's lovely, I love everything about him, but he's 5'6". So 6'7" to 5'6". And she's like, Kailen, and she's 5'7", and she likes to wear heels. She's like, this guy's amazing, but I just can't go there. I'm like, you just said he's amazing. You like everything about him. Yeah, but he's too short. And I said, how tall is his soul? Like, okay, what do you mean? Really? How is it going with all the other guys? So long story short, she's like, oh, do you think I'm in my way? Do you think I'm getting in my way? And I said, yeah, this whole thing, honestly, my God, come on. When we get old, we all shrink, we all shrivel, I mean, come on. And long story short, she listened to me and I just saw that they got married on Facebook. I was so excited. I
Oh,
can send
that's
you a picture.
beautiful.
Actually, it's not hysterical. It's darling. But honestly, and yet, and I praise God that she asked me that question. And because she was ready, because she was saying her friends were all like, oh no, he's all too short for you. Here's the other, stop listening to your friends.
Thank you.
Stop.
I say this in my boot camp with all my clients that stop talking about your love life and who you're dating with your friends, because our friends want to protect us. So they're going to, oh, no, 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 he's not right. And also secretly, they don't really want us to get married or find a guy because then we're going to be gone, right?
That's true oftentimes. Or I have to say, in all honesty, how happy are their marriages? How happy are their relationships? How fulfilled are they? And how well do they really know you? Look at the joy and the happiness in their lives. We want to love on our sisters, and we're all in different places at different times. But I will say, yeah, so I stop paying attention to the height thing. Just let your soul go. Let your soul see if you can feel in love and fall in love. And then also the thing of listening to your friends, be very, very, very careful about that. You need to be your own true, 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 true friend and listen to that voice and let that true voice, not a voice of fear, but guide you. And how else do they get in their way? I think that again, that darn ego, I will say it's so confusing to me. Again, I represent very, very, very wealthy people, and I have a client that I'm representing right now, and I adore her. She's a multi-billionaire, and I get why she feels like and she knows, first of all, most men will never come anywhere near to the wealth that she has. but she really believes he needs to have a certain level of massive wealth. And he doesn't. If the guy made a couple $100,000 a month, or not a month, a year, a couple $100,000 a year, and he's an amazing just man and soul and lover and buddy and everything. And who cares? She's got enough for everybody. You just want your person. So that's the one thing. And she knows, and I'm trying, and I'm being as respectful as I can. And I'm trying to find that super ultra wealthy guy. And here, if it's
Ultra
God's plan,
wealthy
he
guy,
exists.
the ultra wealthy guy does not want to be with an ultra wealthy woman for the most part. He wants to be with somebody who's going to
Look
admire
at me.
and look up to him, right? And if she's got all this, she's going to be less likely to do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Doesn't
So
mean it can't happen. And we'll try, won't we? We will try.
there's
But
this great example that worked out.
getting in the
There's
way.
this lady who was in this category, and
Okay.
she had been married twice, widowed twice. The second guy was more wealthy than the first one. Okay. And so she said the same thing. I need to be a man who's in my league lot. Well,
Yeah.
I introduced her to all these people, and plenty of them were wealthy and all of that. And none of them went for her, right? She would go for him. He wouldn't go for her. Something about energetic. It wasn't the right fit. So it was getting toward the end of her program. There's this one guy who really wanted her to meet, but he wasn't in any way in her league. But she's got this huge monster home in on Wilshire Boulevard, one of those big, huge condominium buildings, 2 floors, busted through the roof, put a grand piano downstairs, and she always wanted somebody to play that grand piano, right? Because it just sits there. So anyway, this guy's the entertainer on the cruise ship, okay? That's what he's done for 40 years. And he's a little younger than she is, and he's fun. He's got this great
Yeah.
English accent. And I
Yeah.
said, I want the 2 of you to meet. I think it's going to be great. Well, short version of the story, they are together to this day.
Good
And
job.
how they worked it out was they came up, they were trying to figure out the finances. I get them on the phone together. And we decided that they should assign a percentage of their income. And for some reason, they picked the number 7.5%. I don't know why. And 7.5% of whatever comes into either one of their accounts goes into a special account that the 2 of them have together. And they both have a credit card on that account. They never don't have enough money for anything that they want, but it took the pressure off. So when they go out to eat, he uses the credit card. When he wants to take her on a worldwide cruise, he uses the credit card. It all works out.
Interesting. Well, that's great advice. Thank you. Okay, I'll propose that. I will say quickly, I have a client, a former client. She's now a dear friend of mine. She was another one. She was married to someone very, very, very famous, wealthy. And so she said he absolutely has to have a private plane. He has to have this level of wealth. He has to, because it's what I'm accustomed to. And I'm like, well, none of that has anything to do with love. And look, you had all that. You were not that darn happy. And so long story short, she said, no. She just reached out to me like a few months ago and said, I met the most amazing man. I'm madly in love with him. He barely has a thing and he does not have an airplane. So I said, see, you let your heart do its thing. And she's like, yes, I know. Oh, I wish I would have listened to you a long time ago. So again, stop that darn ego, the ego that's attached to control and fear and pain and rejection, and just breathe,
The ego gets in the way, but also status, which is related to ego. Status. So your friends say, oh, you settled for cheap. You settled for broke guy. You settled for this short guy. No, I chose this relationship and it's a beautiful one, right?
Amen.
You want to make decisions based on what Aunt Carol might say, or what our friends are going to say, or what our coworkers will say. No, if we truly love ourselves, which takes me right back to what we started with, if we truly love ourselves, we can make intelligent choices based on what we really need and what we really want, not based on what the world will say.
And I'll say it even stronger. What you said was perfect, but it's not we do. Truly love ourselves. We do make intelligent decisions that are, and intelligent. It's like, okay, people could judge that word. Not cerebrally. We're connected, mind, body, soul, spirit. We are at peace. We have a calm. There's and we trust and we go for it. And you just let the rest happen. And when you do that, it's amazing. It's amazing. People can heal really pretty much, honestly, everything.
You're the real deal, Kailen. If people want to work with you for matchmaking, coaching, whatever, how do they find you? How do they engaged with you?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. They can go to thelovearchitects.com.
Architect.com. And you do work with people for matchmaking, but also you have, is it like a 30-day reboot, fall in love with yourself over 30 days, something like that, a coaching program like that?
Well, I have a lot of different things going on. They can actually also, I have a new, well, it's new in the process of kind of revamping, but they can also go to mylovedesign.com. So that's not working with me, but it's an opportunity to build their love house, to go through 11 steps that I really will do with my clients one-on-one. It's sort of a self-taught process to find themselves, the truth of who they are, to learn to love themselves, hear their inner voice and honor that, and then find their person. So again, mylovedesign.com, or they can work with me at thelovearchitects.com. But yes, I mean, I have boot camps just like you. I have a book, Real Love Right Now, that has the 30-day blueprint as well inside of it. And yeah, I have a
Beautiful.
podcast, but yeah, it's just getting centered, just trusting and
I
loving
really
oneself.
appreciate that you have offerings at all these different levels. You're not just the matchmaker who has one thing to offer and it's a $175,000 matchmaking program. No, you've got all kinds of things that people can do,
Yes.
including the ultra high end. But I really appreciate that you work with people at the level of soul and that we need to work on that first. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. You're the only one who does it like this.
Oh, well, thank you, Julie.
Thank you
Yeah.
for being here. I'm really glad that we reconnected. And one of these days, you got to get back to the conferences. I know you're busy, but next year we'll be back in Cancun and we want you there.
Sounds good. Well, you and I will chat. We'll we'll get
Thank you,
together.
Darlene. I'd love it.
Sounds fun.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed learning all about Kailen Rosenberg and all the things that she does. And you go out there and transform me to we for yourself. Thanks for listening.